All right, so with that, let's get on with episode 198. We're going to kick things off with a game I mentioned a couple minutes ago. It's a game called Disintegration. It is being developed by a former Bungie veteran who really had his hands on the Halo stuff and then was there for the transition to Destiny as well. When you look
Man, it's seen some shit.
He has, for sure. He's been through it. And I think when you first look at this game, the first impression you get just by looking at the art style is that it's like a Destiny clone. Because it's a first-person shooter, but you're actually piloting a mech. And then it's also crossed with real-time strategy elements. So you're on like a mech, but it hovers. It doesn't like go on the ground. And then your three minions, I guess is what you would call them, follow you around on the map. And there's going to be a campaign that was not available in the beta. All it was available was the competitive multiplayer. And there's a bunch of different like mechs that you can choose, and each one of them has a different team. There's a primary and a secondary weapon for each mech. But then your three minions on the ground also have their own abilities. So you go around and they just kind of follow you around. And we can start running the B-roll so people can see this. You go around and they will follow you around. They're kind of tethered to you. Mm-hmm. And then you can control them by using your reticle, and you point it where you want it. And then you hit the D-pad to select which minion you want to control. Once you've done that, then you hit one of the bumper buttons to actually activate their ability. And they're all different. Some of your minions are big heavies. And you can see here, one of the modes is you pick up canisters and you deliver them to the base. So right here, I'm instructing my minions to pick up that canister. So it's not like when you pick up something, you actually pick it up, your minions pick it up. And then it's your job to guide them to the drop-off area and defend them all along the way. And so there's kind of like this tug of war between the two teams. Obviously, as you get killed, you drop it, and then it's a rush to try to pick it back up and start moving. It can get pretty frantic. So this is coming to both Xbox One and PC. I got an invite. So there was a closed period where just people who were invited were allowed to play. And then 2 days later, it opened up and anybody could play. And the code that I got for the private session was for Xbox One. So I downloaded it. And Matt, the game was completely unplayable. It probably ran, I'm not even exaggerating, when it ran, it probably ran at like 15 frames a second. And then frames would just dump. Like, I would finish a game, and I would have like 20 kills. I'm like, I didn't kill anybody. And like the lag was so bad, I was accidentally killing people, not even knowing it. It was crazy. And like I leveled up. The funny part was, so I couldn't play the Xbox One version. What concerns me about that is we're kind of getting a first look at scaling here. Game scaling for hardware. Now, I have the base Xbox One. I don't have the One X. I don't have the S. I have the launch model of the Xbox One. And it can't run it. It just can't. Like, I don't know if they still need to optimize for it.
I would imagine that. I don't see anything about this that looks like it wouldn't be able to run on an Xbox One base model.
It couldn't. And it's crazy. Like, I started Googling
that has to be unfinished something. Like, this is not a tremendously impressive looking visual here. I don't know what would be the problem. If it can run Call of Duty, I don't know why it couldn't run this.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think it's strange, though?
No.
That they would put out a beta for a version and it doesn't run?
I mean, it's not ideal. Maybe they didn't test it a lot on the base model. Maybe they don't think people have the base model anymore. I don't know. I don't know what. Maybe they don't have any launch Xboxes to test on anymore.
One thing it made me realize is something that we've discussed on this show pretty consistently over the last like 6 months is that scaling it is not just like PC, where you have like a game and you can just go in and set the config and run it however you want to. It's not going to be that easy on console.
Even on PC, it's not that easy.
You're right.
Like you change certain settings, suddenly it crashes. You don't know
or
why.
It
you got to go through all the different
5 frames a second.
You put this one setting up one more, and all of a sudden you lose 30 frames a second. Like was it 60? Now it's at 20. Like what's going on? Or you turn this shader on, and every time you look at water, the frame rate crashes to 5. Like and that doesn't happen on someone else's rig that has the same video card, but maybe you have different
RAM.
You have no idea. I mean. Scalability is definitely a thing, but it is not a thing that happens automatically, certainly anymore if it ever did.
Yeah.
There's just too much variation and too much specialization between different hardware configurations. Obviously, it is easier when you know that people are going to have one of 2 or 3 models of a console, but it's not an automatic win, obviously, and certainly not as you get further into a generation and you've got. I don't know if the S is actually faster than the original one, but like I would assume that there's maybe certain tricks to it or certain little things in it that maybe they weren't the same, or you have to test both separately. I don't know. I don't know anything about game development beyond like kind of what I've been told, but and betas can be rough. That can be the purpose of the beta sometimes to like see how that all plays together.
It was called a technical test beta.
I mean, technical test means this thing's not going to work right.
Server load. Yeah, they're trying to figure out server load and all that kind of stuff. It was unplayable on the base Xbox One. So it does make me a little nervous kind of looking down the road. I don't
think there's anything to extrapolate there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what it shows is that they're not just going to be able to make one version of the game and just cross their fingers and hope it works on the weaker consoles.
No, but
they're going to have to actually do work to make sure
I don't think
it works.
anyone believes otherwise. If in development, any developer knows that. So
I hope so, because otherwise it was. And look, it may have ran great on Xbox One X. I'm assuming it did, but for me on my base model, it did not. And so what I ended up having to do, I tried to play it for like the whole day of that first test, and I kept thinking like maybe it's my connection, maybe they're having server problems. So I kept coming back throughout the day, and it just kept being a problem. So I waited until it went into open beta, and I downloaded the PC version, and that's the footage that you're seeing here. And by the time I got into this beta, the PC players, they just worked me. Oh my gosh. The thing about this is there's only like 5 mechs. It's like 5 on 5, and the maps are gigantic. So it's very easy to get caught out on your own in this game, and like you have no chance. Like in a lot of shooters, 3 on 1, sometimes I can handle that, and I can take out all 3 guys. You have no chance in this at all. So it really is you need kind of a pack mentality. You need to stick with your team, because the other thing too is that all the mechs are different. You have like a heavy mech that has like a mortar and then like a chain gun. And then you have like the really fast ones that have, a really high fire rate on their chain gun, but it doesn't do a ton of damage. And then maybe they have this thing that you can throw down on the ground that's like a blue like protective dome that you can So everything has like there's a reason to pick all the different teams, and they're all themed. There's one that's like a bunch of circus clowns. There's one that's called like the neon team that's all kind of futuristic. There's like I think there are 6 or 7 teams in the current build that I played, and they all are kind of stereotypes. But then their special abilities make sense within those stereotypes, and their ship abilities make sense within those stereotypes. I don't think the game is going to be free to play, but it's set up like a free to play game. So you're constantly grinding to unlock new uniforms for your team, new skins for your mech. I never got to the point where I was unlocking like new weapons or abilities for that stuff. That may happen, but it didn't happen for me in my few days of playing. But I think what I want to say most importantly about this is that it's something different. I've been playing shooters for a long, long time. I've never played anything like this. It can get a little awkward when you're trying to control your minions while you're also like dogfighting somebody. And there were definitely points where I just like hit whatever direction on the D-pad and then just hit the bumper button in a panic, like just trying to unload as much as I could. Another thing that's a little weird in this game, there's no radar, so you have no idea where enemies are. And like I said earlier about getting caught away from the group, you're doomed. That happens a lot in this game. You literally will just come around the corner of a building and the whole team will be there. Literally the whole team. That happened to me at least like 4 times. And within a second, you're done. You're exploded. So look, there's a lot of promise with this game. The campaign, I'm interested to see. I don't know how you make this kind of stuff work in a campaign. But the multiplayer to me is the more compelling idea, the more compelling concept. Now, there weren't a ton of modes. There were 3 different modes you could play. You couldn't select them. It was just kind of set on random. There was retrieval, which is what we've been showing, where you pick up the canister and then you have to take it to a point and drop it off. There was collector, which is a lot like kill confirmed in Call of Duty. When you die, you leave a tag behind, and then somebody can come and pick it up, and that's when you actually get the kill, when you claim it. And then there was one called zone control, which is basically just domination. You just go to a point in the map, capture it, hold it as long as you can. There's a counter that gives you points while you do it. So The modes in this game are pretty typical of what you would expect from any other first-person shooter. The game itself and how you play the game, though, is anything but. And as I said, there were definitely technical issues with the Xbox One version. The PC version ran like butter, to be honest with you. You can see it right now. It's not all that technically impressive. It does kind of have that indie look to it. It looks good, but it doesn't have that extra kind of pizzazz on it, if you know what I'm saying. So it's not one of those games that's going to blow your mind with its visual splendor, but it's really fun. It plays smoothly. I'll be interested to see some of the other modes that they come up with, because you would think that there'd be an opportunity to come up with some creative ideas instead of just another domination or team deathmatch or kill confirmed or whatever. But I had fun with it. And I was kind of disappointed when it ended because there's nothing else to play right now. I was like, I like this. What am I going to play now that this has gone away? But I had a lot of fun playing this. It's only coming out for PC and Xbox One right now. It's published by Private Division, which is 2K's kind of indie imprint that they publish smaller stuff from. So it does have financial backing. It obviously has a pedigree of having someone who used to work at Bungie working on it. So I have high hopes for this. It's supposed to come out this year. We're already playing a beta in February. So all signs are kind of pointing to it actually hitting its release date, at least roughly. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. It probably would have been nice if it actually came out right now, because it's just such a dead period in the industry. It could have done really, really well, but it's nowhere near ready to go. And the campaign could be something that ultimately holds back its release date. We'll see. There was none of that at all in the beta. There was an option there, but it was grayed out. You couldn't select it. And it's funny, like watching this trailer now, it makes sense. When I watched it the first time, I was like, this is just Destiny Sparrows. It's just going to be a whole game about Destiny Sparrows. And I guess now it is kind of, if I think about it. Yeah. It is kind of just an entire game built around Destiny's hovercraft.
Although, to be fair, like, the Sparrows are kind of the vehicles in Destiny in general are the most wasted element.
They are
of that game.
They're just a quick way to get around. Yeah, that's it.
And the ships, you don't do anything.
Yeah, and here they're actually putting them to use. So I had a good time with it. There was only one map, so that one map that we saw, that was the only one I got to play, and I did get sick of it after a while because it really is just like a grid with buildings randomly placed, and I feel like they could get a lot more mileage out of good map design with this game than they could with maybe a typical first-person shooter. So I'm interested to see some more environments. But otherwise, I had a pretty good time with it. They could probably find an easier, more streamlined way and maybe automate your minions a little better. But they will start fighting. Like if they get near the other team's minions, they'll just pull out their guns and they'll start shooting. When you finish a match, you get 2 scores. You get a score for you, what you did with the mech, and then your minions get a score. And then that all rolls into your unlocks and your leveling and all that kind of stuff as well. So Disintegration coming to Xbox One and PC. I'm guessing it'll probably eventually be available for Xbox Series X as well. But I had a lot of fun with it. You can see now why people were like, it's a Destiny clone. These trailers, it looks like it could be a Destiny trailer. But it's not. It really plays completely differently and completely unique, even if the art style is maybe a little bit too close for comfort. So there you go. That's Disintegration.